Prefabrication and modular has jumped from the least likely design driver when we surveyed architects in 2020 to one of the top R&D priorities for them when we surveyed them in 2021. So why is this? Number one, they're looking at affordable housing solutions. Number two, prefab and modular. I have to say that those two are probably related, would be my assumption. What I've learned through talking to, I actually did quite a few months of talking to prefab and modular offsite construction. Anybody who's not a traditional stick built is how I consider offsite modular prefabrication. And what they're telling me is that they're hitting roadblocks because they're not being brought in early enough. When you talk to them, they really need to integrate in very early in order to be able to do this and do this successfully, but they're willing to be partners in that process. And so it's not something, you can't think of it as, oh, I'm gonna hire a prefab or modular to do my construction instead of hiring the trades. That's not how you have to look at it. You've got to bring them in during the design process in order for that to happen. And they're willing to work with architects too. So the 6 factors that have impacted this decision for prefabrication or modular is the desire, and sorry, my slides got a little funky, I think, with the font switchover. The desire to control the building process. It can help with speed and with quality. There's tolerance for higher direct costs. So when things get a little wonky in the market, that there's a little bit of stability there. And then sometimes you have to think about the location of factories, but a lot of times the offsite construction is environmentally or for the health standpoint much more desirable for some individuals or for some builders. So those are the top 6 factors that you have to think about, and we could probably have a whole session on this, but we don't have time for that. And when we talk to consumers, so that's what architects are telling us. When we talk to consumers, they're saying that most of them say that they could be swayed to choose a prefabricated home. 3 out of 4 consumers are telling us this. Only a small percentage are like, heck no, I'm not doing that. And about half of homeowners would consider living in a 3D printed home. So you might say, like, that sounds crazy, but I don't know if you've read the news lately or not, but Lennar and Icon are actually printing homes right now in Texas. And there's a company called Mighty Buildings in California, and they just opened a home in Southern California, completely 3D printed home, and I think they're almost sold out, if not already, and they have a waiting list longer than they would ever be able to make homes for that community in particular. So it's on the horizon, it is out there. Oh.
It's very much a long-term goal of mine to get to the point where we can be either modular or 3D printed. The struggles we've had, for anybody who's looked into it, probably has some of the same stories. Capacity tends to be an issue with the modular and factories. Mm-hmm. Also, our home designs, just the way in talking to them, they'd have to cut them up. It really just wouldn't work. We'd sacrifice too much on the design of our houses to do it that way. 3D printing, right now the limitation is just width and depth of a footprint of a house, and right now all of our plans are too wide or too deep to do 3D printing, but over time that'll change. The technology will catch up, and I do believe it is the future of the industry.
And then lastly, we wanted to touch on energy efficiency. And in a lot of places, this is no longer a need, it's a requirement. Some states are starting to require it, but consumers are also catching on. We just got the results back from one of our surveys from consumers, and I don't have all the data in front of me, but most consumers are very aware of the fact that their home being energy efficiency can, number one, save them money over the long term, and they're starting to recognize this and desire it. It's going beyond appliances. It's great to have Energy Star, woohoo, that's awesome, but like, what else is happening in my home that can help save me money? And as we talked to architects, they are also looking at building envelope solutions, mechanical systems, solar panels. These are the top ways to try to get to some sort of sustainable solution to help offset what's going on in the home. The building envelope being number one, so thinking about how the house is coming together, the moisture barriers, the airflow. And again, if we look at production architects and custom designers, both custom architects and production architects are looking at energy efficiency as one of their top decision makers. On the custom side, the difference in this is production architects, their clients are builders. Custom architects, their clients are consumers, and they're designing specifically for that individual consumer. So there's a little bit of difference potentially on price point and who can do that. And so even people that can afford to spend a ton of money on a home and hire their own architect, they're still saying, make my home more energy efficiency and save me money over the long term. And then sustainability and carbon, it's not a factor yet, but again, that survey result that we just got back last week, we were shocked when we looked at it. About 40% of consumers say that carbon and carbon neutral and what's going on in carbon and how they can offset their carbon is a factor in their day-to-day decision making. So it might not be that they fully connect the dots yet, but they're starting to get there in their mindset.
So about 2 years ago, we redesigned all of our HVAC systems to a compact design that's much more efficient. That's helped us out quite a bit on our HERS scores. We do have some franchises, since we operate in so many different parts of the country, that do offer net zero ready customizations to their buyers. And I think it all just boils down to what's a driving buying force in your market. It kind of varies, because we do a lot in the Midwest, and that's not as much of a priority as it would be to people that live out here or in California.
Fantastic. All right, we have about 5 minutes for questions. So just raise your hand, start talking. I think we're a small enough group that if you have questions, you can just stand up, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have. I think I can see everybody through the lights. Hi, yes.
Is there a particular target market that are interested in either the 3D homes, the modular homes, the prefab homes that you know of?
So thank you, Gigi. Really good question. What we're finding as we talk to consumers, and we probably still need to dig into this because there's a lot of details in this question, but high level, consumers do not care or even really know how their homes are built. Every time we talk to them, they care about the floor plan, they care about what the kitchen looks like, they care about if it meets their needs, and they care about the location. How it gets there, they just want it. They just want it. They want to be able to afford it. They want it to be where they need it to be, and they need it to meet their lifestyle. How it gets from a piece of dirt to their completed home, most of them are indifferent about it or completely unaware of that process.
Till it saves them money or gets them in their home faster.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. The one thing I will say that I've learned about 3D printing and or offsite construction is depending on if it's a true modular. So like think about dropping in kitchen pods, dropping in bathroom pods. If it's a panelized, like structural insulated panel or functional panel where you already have your wiring, your plumbing, everything connected, versus if it's just a off-site panelized wall system that you still have to run plumbing and electrical through. There's multiple different types of off-site construction. What I'm finding is that the structural insulated panels or the modular, the true modulars, they're getting inspected on site and factory, which means you get to skip the inspection on site, which helps speed things along. Different states play different games there. So I can speak from California just because I happen to live in that state and I can kind of dig into the details there. But once it gets, specifically for 3D printed, there's an example, once they get checked in the factory, you don't have to go through all of the on-site visits that you have to do with traditional stick built.
In the last year, what would be the top one or two things that you've learned from your surveys that's been the most surprising or eye-opening to you and the team?
The past 1 to 2 years, I don't know if it's going to be surprising. It's the things, most of the time, the things that we learn in our surveys are the ones that people say, yeah, that makes sense, and I'm really glad we confirmed it. Like, easy to clean. And here's the thing. We don't even ask about easy to clean in a lot of our surveys. What we do is we say, why are you frustrated? What's the most frustrating thing about your kitchen? What's the most frustrating thing about your bathroom? What's the most frustrating thing about your home office? What's the most frustrating thing about your outdoor living space? And then we give them an opportunity after they select whatever the quantitative is to give us a qualitative answer, and we leave these open text box, and they go off about having to clean their house. And it's just, it shows up time and time and time again. And in survey after survey, I remember one woman, she was like, please stop suggesting that I do penny tile in my bathroom. Like, I'm not gonna clean penny tile with all that grout in my bathroom. Stop showing it to me, stop giving me, and I mean, I kid you not, she went on for like 3 paragraphs talking, like she went off about anything that had that amount of grout on it, right? And so easy to clean is probably the number one no-brainer. The ability for people to, how do I say this? They recognize that energy efficiency and sustainability matter. Number one reason that it matters for them is because it saves them money, but they're okay getting the brownie points because they feel like they're saving the planet. But the difference between those two things is like this, right? It's like the number one reason is I want to save money. And so I always go to the example of when Priuses first came on the market. And you know, they had the giant window stickers that said, we'll save you $5,000 a year in gas, or whatever the number was. I don't know, I'm making it up. But that type of marketing really resonates with the consumers when they realize, like, yeah, I might pay the same for this home, but because it's so energy efficient, I'm going to save so much money over the time. Anything else? Any questions? Any questions? Seeing none? All right, we'll see you later. Thanks, everybody.